This isn't theater. This is a problem. I'm not interested in photo ops. I'm interested in solving a problem. And those who say I should visit the border, when you ask them what should we be doing, they're giving us suggestions that are embodied in legislation that I've already sent to Congress. So it's not as if they're making suggestions that we're not listening to. In fact, the suggestions of those who work at the border, who visited the border, are incorporated in legislation that we're already prepared to sign the minute it hits my desk. There's a very simple question here, and that is Congress just needs to pass the supplemental.
Two things we can take with certainty from the president's public agenda this week. His jokes and snappy retorts aimed at Republicans need a lot of work, and the legend of Minnesota Fats has absolutely nothing to worry about from what he did in Denver. Other than that, we really don't have much solid to take away from more immigration dueling and little or nothing actually getting done inside the Beltway. We have that and so much more to talk about as veteran political commentator Dick Morris joins Midpoint right here in the studio. Dick, it's a pleasure to see you.
Good to be here.
What is the man's end game is what people are trying to ask here, because with absolutely no action whatsoever, you can't tread water forever. Or, wait a minute, I could be foolish here. Maybe you can in politics.
Well, you're asking the wrong question. It's not what is his end game, it's what is his goal. If you assume that his goal is popularity, he doesn't have one. His goal is to get these kids in the United States and let them stay here. His goal is to fudge the border between refugees fleeing a war and kids coming in immigration. His goal is to make those who live here illegally look like citizens, act like citizens, have IDs like citizens, drive like citizens, and eventually vote like citizens. And his reason is that he wants to create a one-party country in the United States by taking 11 or 12 million Latinos, immigrants, gluing them to the Democratic Party, and in sending the message to Central America and Mexico, come on in, we'll never throw you out.
Where did this idea, now wait a minute, this is going to go back history here, because we're talking about socialism, we're talking about a complete change of the American system as we know it right now. Where did this begin, if indeed this is what he's trying to do? Is this something Barack Obama has always thought about doing? Did it come from others around him?
The day he promised to, quote, fundamentally transform America, 5 days before he took the oath of office the first time. Eileen and I, my wife and I, have a book coming out in September called Power Grab, Obama's Plan to Create a One-Party Country in the United States. His vision is just like the Peronists ruled Argentina and the PRI ruled Mexico and the Kuomintang ruled China, to create a one-party democracy and give the Democratic Party a permanent edge. And he doesn't care much about popularity. What he cares about is demographics.
Now let's talk about those who will fight him on this, and of course we are talking about the Republicans now and those who disagree with him. I want everybody to hear a soundbite here. This is the president on immigration and specifically aiming his comments at the Republicans. Okay, we don't have that, but it should be, if we had it, it would say the House Republicans, they haven't even called the bill, they won't even take a vote on the bill, they don't have enough energy or organization, or I don't know what to just even vote no on the bill, and then they're mad at me for trying to do some things to make the immigration system work better so it doesn't make sense. Okay, Dick, we know who the people are who are fighting him then. How successful are they to this point, and where do they need to take it from right here today in order to fight what he's doing?
Well, I think that obviously the Republicans don't want to pass the bill and don't want to take any action because it'll go to the conference committee and you'll have a, quote, compromise. Obama is trying to ignore the fact that the immigration debate has fundamentally changed, because the question that hung over everybody's head, which was, would amnesty trigger additional migration? Democrats said no, we'll strengthen the border. Republicans said yeah. Republicans have been proven right, and the whole country sees that they're proven right. And therefore, immigration, as I think, now tied with Obamacare as the leading issue against the president, because it is very clear to everybody that all his solution will do is add to the problem.
Isn't it not also clear to people, if you look into this $3.7, $3.8 billion that he has requested, that the money that is in there, a lot of it is for relocation, and it is for a permanent stay for many of these people who are here?
Let me give you just some simple math. Half of it is for housing. A quarter of it is for overtime pay and stuff like that. 45 million of it is for expanding efforts in immigration court. And he features 40 new immigration judges. If they're paid $100,000 each, that's $4 million. Where's the other 41? Defense counsel, lawyers to keep the kids in the United States. But there's another long-term game here. Working with the United Nations, Obama hopes to translate immigration into refugees. Refugees usually are fleeing a war zone. He's going to try and pretend Guatemala and El Salvador and Honduras are a war zone because of the drug violence. And what we see as illegal immigrants, he'll see as asylum seekers. And that puts it in the international courts, because the right of refugees is enshrined in the UN Charter. And international law will take that issue away from the United States and let it be decided by the UN if he can succeed in having these kids seen as refugees, not as illegal immigrants. That's his game.
Does his video seen the other day in Denver playing pool with Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper, does that come up then as one of those seminal moments in a president's final years where really people can point to that in generations and say, this is what your president was really concerned about at a time of crisis?
Well, he has a choice. Would you rather be seen playing pool in Denver or a 15-day vacation in Martha's Vineyard at a cost of $12 million to the taxpayer that he's planning to take? Pool's pretty cheap. That was beer, not champagne.
And it was beer. Not only that, but John Hickenlooper owns the bar, too.
Right.
So
Okay.
it makes it even easier at this point. There was an interesting article that I caught recently talking about a year of action for Obama or a year of spin. And I think what's happened, and it's not just this one article, a 42-page document from the White House that said an update on what President Obama has done this year to ensure opportunity for all Americans. I don't know if you've had a chance to see all 42 pages of this, but it is rife with nothing more than spin.
Well,
but then again, what would we expect from a president anyway?
But it also shows what this guy's paying attention to. Healthcare is falling apart. The border is totally open. 100,000 kids are flooding into the United States. And what does he do? He issues an executive order forbidding contractors from discriminating against transgender employees.
Are we catching? Is America, though, catching up to this, Dick?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that Obama has now fallen again to his low point, 40, and I think he's headed south. I think that the Denver pool hall shot was sort of a way of saying, I don't give a damn.
Do you see others like Udall in Colorado trying to distance themselves as quickly as possible and just
Well, nobody
run?
showed up.
Of course, he didn't show up for the first event, for the public event.
Yeah.
Showed up later, of course, for a private event. But it does seem as if we're now at that point where, and even the White House now is scolding Democrats who are taking the president to charge
There's
here.
one thing I'd like to talk about just in the few minutes we have left, if I can.
Please.
Elizabeth Warren can beat Hillary Clinton.
You think that's a real possibility that she will get involved?
I think she'll run. I think she may run, and if she runs, I'm not saying she will, but I'm saying she can beat Hillary Clinton. She's a woman just like Hillary, and she can raise Hillary's income sources against her, the Goldman Sachs, the crony capitalism, and all of that stuff, because that's Warren's issue. And I challenge anybody to tell me one thing that Hillary can say against Elizabeth Warren where she's better, other than the concept that I can win and you can't. And the question of I can win and you can't can go away very quickly. And Hillary is making the same mistake she made in 2008. 2008, she forgot about the primary. She said, I have this nomination sewed up, and she ran for the general election. That's why she voted for the Iraq War, she voted for the Patriot Act, and the whole bit. Then Obama comes along, flanks her to the left, and she's taken by surprise. That's just what's happening now. She's saying, I was tough on Syria. I believe these children ought to be sent home. Obama's spending too much time with beautiful vision, not enough with practical work in the Congress. She's assuming she has this nomination. And Elizabeth Warren, fueled with Obama's money and Obama's organization, which Ed Klein in his great new book says may be happening, I think that she could beat Hillary. I think history could repeat itself.
Finally, I do want to ask you about what's happening in Israel right now, about the minute and a half that we have left. Where should America be standing at this point? Because there are people worried, and even people who want America to get involved and try and stop what's going on there.
Well, let's remember that the Gaza Strip was originally Israel's after the '67 war, and Sharon gave it back to the Palestinians, who no sooner got it than they put up rocket launchers and used it as a base to attack Israel. Ultimately, I believe Netanyahu should not be reined in by a ceasefire. I think he should go into Gaza and clean the place up. and I'm not even sure it should not remain under Israeli occupation. The Arabs and the Palestinians have used Gaza as nothing more than a launching pad for rocket strikes, invasions, terrorists, and suicide bombers. And they're using U.S. money and UN money to do it. And I think that Netanyahu wants a confrontation with Hezbollah, a confrontation with Hamas, to get rid of them. And unlike the previous times when Israel held back its military might, now I think he's just going to let go.
15 seconds. Do you think that America will do something under the table to help Israel? Anything more than what they've been doing?
No, I think we'll do things under the table to hurt Israel. And Obama will demand a ceasefire and maybe vote against Israel in the UN. But I don't think Netanyahu is going to pay the slightest bit of attention.
I don't think he's paying a lot of
Bibi
attention
was a
now.
client of mine years ago.
I did not know that. See, but now we know all these things. Dick, it's always a pleasure to see
Good
you.
to be here
Please,
with
come
you.
on back down
Yes,
again.
I
Come on
will.
to the studios again. All right, coming up next, from dueling verbiage in Washington to a president shooting pool in the Rocky Mountains, we've talked about all that. Now we need to move to that other big issue we're talking about, and that is immigration. What is happening at the border and what the people on the ground are seeing as well. That and a whole lot more coming up right here as Midpoint continues, where we question everything.